Hey guys, and welcome back into the kitchen for the finale of Holobakes. That's right, we are back in the kitchen one last time on Holobakes to make the most amazing showstopper. It's a German treat. It's called a Baumkuchen. It's a tree cake because it's traditionally made over a spit where the cake batter is basted on and cooked, so it looks like a tree when you cut into it with all of its little rings. There's a very simple way to make this in your kitchen. It's delightfully decadent and sinfully simple. So let's get in the kitchen and let's get started. This cake is made in quite a few steps, about a wet step, a dry step, and then kind of a combine them all together. We're gonna go ahead and cream all of our butter. We have 18 tablespoons of good European butter. I would recommend kind of splurging for it. It is just slightly pricier. 1.25 cups of sugar. I'm gonna reserve about a tablespoon of it for the egg whites. So we're gonna go ahead and whip this until it's light and fluffy. Okay, we are pretty much there. It's now really light. It's very, very pale. It almost looks like you're making frosting. Turn this on low, and we're gonna add in 3 whole eggs and 3 egg yolks. So we're gonna add these kind of one at a time. We don't wanna overload it and then basically curdle our butter, because you're making an emulsion with this. So there's 1, there's 2.5, there's 3. And now to this, I'm gonna go ahead and add in a pinch of salt. I'm using salted butter in this, so I don't wanna add too much. And then finally, our flavors. I've got about 1.5 tablespoons of spiced rum, and then 1/2 teaspoon of almond extract. We're gonna let this sit while we whip our egg whites to hard peaks. Okay, we are almost to stiff peaks. Yep, we are pretty much to stiff peaks. Basically, when you pull it out, you want it to be able to hold without falling over. We're going to add the dry ingredients into the wet ingredient. We have 1.5 cups of flour, just until mixed. We don't want to completely deflate this. We really want to trap as much air as possible in there. Grab my spatula, and we're going to fold in gently these whipped egg whites that we have. Being careful to, once again, not overmix. Add in just a little bit here to kind of slacken the dough a little bit. And really, when you're coming to fold this, you want to go around, then through the middle, around, through the middle. It's gonna be a stiffer batter than you're probably used to, and that's completely okay because it has so much structure from all of the air being whipped into the butter, all of the air being whipped into the egg whites, and then our final addition of egg whites. And just mix this to make sure that there's no streaks of egg white left, and you'll be all good. Great, so now we're gonna go get a 9-inch springform pan. We're gonna butter it up and parchment it, and I'll show you how to cook this. Now that this is all done, we wanna preheat the oven. We're gonna turn it on broiler and make sure that you have the top rack basically in the top third. We wanna get this close to the broiler because that's how we're actually gonna cook this. To get started, we're gonna take a couple spoonfuls of our dough and smear it around the bottom because we don't want it too thick. We wanna just cover it all the way edge to edge. And because this is your base layer, make sure you do get it nicely covered. It's gonna seem like there's not enough cake batter in here, but we're gonna be doing about 8 layers of this. Once you have it pretty much all good, and you don't feel like there's any shallow parts or parts where the parchment paper is sticking through at all. And we're gonna put this under the broiler for about 2 to 5 minutes, depending on how hot your broiler is. We're gonna keep a close eye on this because the first layer is gonna dictate how long the rest of them are gonna bake as well. All right, the first layer is done. It's nice and golden brown. This is about what you're looking for. It's nice and springy to the touch. So I'm gonna go ahead, layer on a couple more spoonfuls, thin it out, and keep going. All done now. You can start to see that a little bit around the outside, it's starting to pull away slightly from the edge, which is exactly what we want. Now we need to let this cool completely before we decorate anything. We're gonna let this rest for at least an hour just so it cools completely and there's no warmth left in it. Our cake is nice and cool now, so now it's time to go ahead and pop it out. We just wanna make sure that it is all clear from the edges. And then we can pull the spring form off. Voila! I'm gonna go ahead and just flip this, take that bottom off. Lay it flat on here. See how like supple and delicious that looks? And we're gonna use apricot jam to spread over this. It's not gonna lend a lot of flavor, but what it's gonna do is help the chocolate ganache that we're pouring over this afterwards. It's gonna help all of that to stick. I'm gonna go ahead and just spoon this through. We wanna catch all like the big solids. And once this is all covered, we wanna push this on the outside of the cake too. We wanna go ahead and let this section cool too, so that when we put the chocolate on, this hot jam doesn't actually melt the chocolate too. All right, now that it has cooled, we have to do the pretty part, which is decorate it. I've got 8 ounces of dark chocolate. I'm using 60% cacao, and for that, I'm using it because this jam is so sweet and I don't want to add like milk chocolate on top of something that sweet. Pour this right on top. This looks so good. Let it go over. And I reserve some behind just in case I need to cover up these spots. Make sure it's all covered on all sides. So now I've melted some white chocolate. Take a toothpick. This gives a stunning finish to this cake. So give it about 15 minutes. Let's let this set before we cut into it. All right, guys, this is set and ready to go. So now all that's left to do is to taste. Look at all of those layers. That is exactly why they call it tree cake. Oh, that is so good. Oh my God. Oh, okay. It's so delicately soft, and that almond flavor comes through so deliciously. That is divine. And it wasn't even that hard to make. You saw how easy this was and how easy all of the hollow bakes were. Thank you again so very much for making this entire year an amazing year for Jake Bakes. I cannot express enough how gracious I am for this opportunity and this experience to share this time with you. It's been a true blessing. So from my kitchen to yours, have a wonderful, wonderful holiday season and a blessed new year. We'll see you here next time on another Jake Bakes. Can we check the set just to make sure nothing weird's in the shots?
No, there's a big jank in there.
Okay, I need to plug this in. Ah! Whoa! Wow, I just saw my life flash before my eyeballs.